Let's get some reaction to this now. Hasha Tlhotlhalemaje is the General Manager for Regulation at Eskom, the person who has to deal with this decision. Hasha, good evening to you. I really do appreciate the time. You wanted an increase of over 30%. You're getting 18% and then 12%. How do you feel about this decision by Nersa?
Well, first of all, whenever someone from Eskom is interviewed, we need to apologize for the load shedding that's happening at the moment. There are plans, and it does take a long time. It's a long-term industry, and, Eskom is trying its best to try to deal with that particular situation. So, start off with, and we the decision was just made a few minutes ago, actually. So it's only been communicated a few minutes ago, and we note the decision. We would have to examine it further to look at what the actual implications are. We do see some positives. For example, the regulatory asset base has been more corrected than it was in the previous year, and we do see, for example, the international purchases, maybe even a significant amount of the primary energy that has been allowed, but we do not have details, so we do not know, what actual implications are. But generally, it's something that we would have to look at further.
You say that, but I mean, you're not, from what I can see, getting the increase that you wanted, and you would never have asked for the increase for the number that you wanted, 32%, if there wasn't a specific reason behind it. To put it bluntly, does this decision mean that Eskom could run out of cash, or that your financial situation could get a lot worse?
No. We need, the reason we need to unpack it is, for example, about over 10 billion was disallowed due to the independent power producers not being able to deliver as originally anticipated in Eskom's application. And so we need to, so that is probably about 3.5%. That's what accounts for that. But we need to see now what adjustments did Nersa make in its decision, basically compensate for that amount of energy that is no longer available from independent power producers. So that needs to be looked at more holistically to understand what Nersa's decision was. So it's very hard to say that, we will run out of cash or we won't run out of cash, because obviously our expenditure to IPPs, in my example, will change, and therefore that would not be needed. So certain decisions will be acceptable, and certain decisions may not be absolutely acceptable, but there might be room to deal with that at a subsequent stage in the regulatory clearing account stage, where reconciliations are done after the financial year. So that would be a more correct way of answering.
Nersa says that some of the problems are at Eskom, and that it doesn't want to, the phrase it used was, incentivize inefficiencies. That's really a strong argument from their side.
No. It is understood and it is accepted. But again, to look at more holistic picture is that from when we compare what the integrated resource plan assumed for this particular year and what actually materialized, from an IPP point of view, it was about 30 terawatt hours less. That's about 30,000 gigawatt hours less energy being produced by IPPs than that was assumed in the integrated resource plan. Obviously, the demand is different, so that needs to be taken into consideration as well. But we do take note that it is incumbent upon Eskom to try and improve its performance, especially of its coal-fired power stations, and that will help from a financial point of view and obviously from an operational and minimizing of load shedding. So we do take note of it, and we are willing to basically respond to what Nersa is requesting.
I mean, I realize you have to go through it, Hasha. I mean, so do we to understand it. You probably only need to go through it once. Some of us may need to go through it about 5 times to understand it. But there's certain things that are quite specific. So, for example, for diesel, as I understand it, you asked for 17 billion rand to run your open cycle gas turbines. We know how important they are because when you switch them off, there's load shedding. You only got 8.4 billion rand. I mean, that's a huge difference. I mean, that, to me, would automatically suggest that there's going to be more load shedding as a result of Nersa's announcement today.
Yes, and we assumed that Nersa has balanced the supply and demand and have found another source to be able to meet the the demand. So that's the part that we will have to understand further. But we did hear into the conversation in the meetings, and we do understand where Nersa is coming from, where it needs to balance the impact on the consumer and the high diesel costs, for a few more kilowatt hours that it would be able to meet. So, and it seems like Nersa felt that could be met by fired power stations or other power stations, and so we would need to look at that. So it's not just looking at it linearly to be able to answer. So obviously, the incentivizing that Nersa wishes us to do, if we do manage to do that, then there will be a less requirement for diesel for the open cycle gas turbines. But the point is that how quickly can this turn around, because this financial year that this becomes applicable, it starts in just over 2 months. So, so all of those things need to be looked at as well. It is disappointing that all of the open cycle gas turbine diesel allowance was not included in the determination, but then Eskom would have to be able to go back and decide how best to respond to that.
And Hasha, we've seen several times you taking Nersa to court over decisions. You've won pretty much all of those cases. From what you know at this stage, you haven't gone through it properly. I understand that. I accept that. Is that possible again, that you go to court again?
Well, we will have to look at particular orders that have been finalized by the court and whether actually Nersa did implement those orders. And if not, then, it becomes something that needs to be looked at. But, again, it's only when the reasons for decision comes out that we will be able to look at those kinds of details. So it's hard to say yes or no. I'm not saying either at the moment.
Hasha Tlhotlhalemaje, thank you. I do appreciate the time. I realize this is all very much hot off the press. The General Manager for Regulation at Eskom.